And hello and welcome to the 7th episode of 218 Top 50s, and we have a pretty big one today. As you might have seen from the sheer size of this video, we've got 5 Top 50s to cover today. So I won't cover any other PBs that are outside Top 50. I'll try and trim the fat as much as possible, because we've already got a lot of meat on this bone. So if you just want to check a specific track or anything, here's the time codes, and we're just gonna dive right into it. Starting with Learning Complete. Let's go. Alright, so let's start with Learning Complete. All those PBs will be in chronological order. This is the first one I got, I believe, either Monday or Tuesday, it doesn't really matter. For the map itself, well, the main thing I can say is that it plays in multiple steps, essentially. You have the beginning section, including the first low trick, the shroom cut, and the ending strat. So starting off right away, the beginning section you can actually drive it a lot tighter than most people think, mainly hopping over a little gap right here with like just a little hop. Makes it a bit faster. It's not necessary by any means, but it does help a bit when it comes to speed. You'll see Octavia going for it. I unfortunately misaligned this run, so it's not as good as it could be. Here, you want to hop right before you go off the edge in order to let the back wheel clip the road in order to get a low trick, just like this. Then just clip the boost pad, wheelie, then drift, empty, the usual. And here we come to the main choke point of this run, which is the shroom cut. It'll be the source of many of your resets. You can go for the easy way through the dirt, but this is not what really interests us here. If you want to have an idea of the proper lineup in order to get it, I would say that the best metric is either between the right of the thwomp and the left wall, somewhere around here. These are like your best, it's essentially like your zone in order to properly get it. And what you'll want to do then is start a hard drift right as you approach the wall. The exact timing, if you want to do it optimally, depends on how far you are from the wall. But if anything goes right, you shroom right before you go off, you hold back for distance, and you clear it. Once on landing, because this is not quite done, what you'll want to do is keep drift right in order to get like a drift bounce, and then drift trick left in order to land back up and have a proper alignment going into this trick right here, which you'll want to drift trick left in order to get as low air as possible, then wheelie off as your boost is about to end, drift trick right in order to get a low trick going into the ending section, which is the other pretty big choke point here. So the way you do it, first things first, you need to hard drift right, aiming for this for the edge of this boost panel right here. And then once you hit it, you want to release your mini turbo early before going off. Keep your just keep your line, don't even wheelie. You don't need to wheelie, because if you wheelie, you'll actually go too far. Most of the time, you go too far off into this platform, which is not what you want. You don't wheelie, you just release your MT, then tail dive in order to not get any bounces, and then hard drift right, trick off in order to start the next lap correctly. This is basically how a normal lap of Alone and Incomplete goes. Unfortunately, this run has a really shitty end of lap 2, but as you can see, it keeps up with tops for the entire lap 1, so it's a good. I'd say it's a good example if you want to learn it. And now for the alternate route for online play, which I'll mainly be talking about the shroomless version of the bounce section and the alternate ending shroom cut. First, for the shroomless section, you just want to trick off the ramp and then continue just hard drifting right in order to get a proper in order to land facing the right side in order to just keep a wheelie going the entire way. As for the alternate shroom cut, it's pretty easy. You aim for the end of the second arrow, starting from the left, sorry. Then you wheelie off while slowing down just a little bit in order to hit the edge of the bounce pad, shrooming as you leave, trick, and you should land perfectly aligned with the last ice platform in order to get a trick into next lap. And onto our second replay, which is Midnight Museum, which I believe is actually a pretty fun rank track both to learn and to play online once you actually learn it properly. The lines are relatively easy at the start, but here we come to what most people would say is probably the most egregious part of this track, which is the split path and accompanying it both the Midnight Museum ramps and the shroom cut. Now, I have tricks for all of these. First off, for the ramps, I actually found out while playing this that hopping before you reach the ramp prevents any bounces, any no tricks happening. So I do recommend trying it out. Just try and hop before you reach the ramp in order to essentially like reset it. I believe it works. It works a lot better and a lot more consistent than just going off it normally. Now, for the split path itself, when you're in an actual race, you have three options. First off is the shroomless route. You down trick both onto the starting ramp and onto the next ramp, nosediving onto the second in order to go extremely tight into the grass cut, which you trick over. The second one is the shroom route, where you go upstairs, going for the item. It's better in most positions when you have a shroom, and then you go off on the left without tricking. And finally, you have the TT shroom route, where you trick off the first flip ramp and then go off this little boost pad right here, landing on the stunt ramp below, and just continuing it overall faster. But in an actual run, you'll only use this if you have triple shrooms or a golden. Any other option, I'd say the box is usually better. Now, the main thing that people struggle with is getting the fast way to the shroom cut, because you could theoretically go around, but it's a lot slower. The best way to do it is to go a bit wide at the start, then drift and go tight into that line, hopping over the fence. You don't want to take too wide of an angle because you could stick onto the downhill and just loses you a shit ton of time. You empty wheelie off, shroom as soon as you hit that, and if you want to go for the low trick, you can try and do the same shit as alone and complete. You can hop, make your back wheel clip onto the flip trick ramp in order to get a really low trick off. But I do not believe it is worth it in an actual run, simply because of the fact that you're quite likely to just fall off and lose a shit ton of time. So you trick down, you get onto that ramp, you really trick off, then once again just hop on, down trick. A lot of these flip ramps you'll want to down trick off simply to get a tighter drift angle going into the next corner. Here you want to delay your empty just a little bit in order to make sure that you have a proper alignment going into the straightaway, because if you do get like a bad alignment, you'll have to hop around a bit more. It's a lot slower. So delaying your empty a bit does improve it just a bit. You do a small drift right and then drift left, empty wheelie. Just a small hop here in order to get a double trick. And finally, for this last part, you just want to do one long drift going into the last corner. Release your empty as you get off the uphill, and just drift right, empty into the next lap. Now, there's also an alternate shroom cut that you can take, which is right at the end where you go off the skull. But I do not believe it's as worth as saving it for the dirt cut, especially if you're in an upper spot. Of course, if you're bottom spot, you still want to use a shroom, go right ahead. But it's not as useful as it could be, in my opinion. And onto DSDK Pass, which is actually the fastest top 50 I've ever gotten, starting from when I first started TTing the map, gone around 20 minutes, which is a lot faster than I thought it'd be. If you guys want one word to know how to drive this track fast, it's simple, it's chain drifting. Chain drifting, especially at the start of the track, will net you a lot more speed, starting with those two S's right here. Chain drifting a single MT into a wheelie, conserving 97 speed, and right here, same shit, chain drifting 2, in order to keep going as tight as possible through each corner while keeping while going as fast as humanly possible. Here you just chain 2 MTs, which I miserably fail at, but that's besides the point. You empty wheelie for a short bit, then empty again. This snowball is actually good to know offline, ends super tight here. So it's good to know in case you're driving through. It tends to go off around this area super tight. So you can get caught off guard by it if it's your first time driving the track or if you simply forgot. The shroom cut, which is actually the part I struggled with the most. It's quite simple once you get down to it. You have to start really wide into the shroom cut. Keep going wide for a bit before hard drifting left onto the uphill while you shroom. You just keep your drift going while you shroom up, release your MT as you land, and there you go. You get a lot faster than starting tight because you'll just fly off, then end up around here, just going super wide. Whereas starting wide nets you a much tighter angle and makes you a lot faster on the map overall. As for the downhill section, it's pretty easy. You just MT trick off that. I don't know why I hop trick. This was terrible, but anyway. To show you how people don't know how to drive this. This is top 50. Granted, the first lap is the worst driving out of all of these, from what I recall. So here you just MT, drift, trick off. Here you drift trick left in order to reduce airtime and get a good angle going into last corner. Then chain 2 MTs, and finally we are done. Relatively simple map overall. And time for fourth track, Item Fireland, which is the map I actually had the most experience with going into this little TT session, since I already had multiple times. It was picked a lot It was in our track list in the last CTL season, so I had a lot of experience with it in the first place. So I actually got a really good time on this, so I'm pretty proud of that, and I can teach you how to do shroomless properly, which is the part most people struggle with on here. First things first, just drift trick off the first ramp pretty easily. Here on this uphill, a lot of people complain about how bouncy it is, but honestly, if you just keep going right and soft drift up there, it is really stable. But you have to soft drift, otherwise, yes, you will get plenty of bounces. Continue soft drifting, release MT once you're right on top in order to prevent bouncing off. Then here, hop a bit earlier in order to get a stick and just keep drifting tight. Just driving this map as fast as you can. Here you want to ride the right wall of the cannon in order to come out with a bit of lower air. It's really subtle, but it does make a difference. Also, as you can see, you can get a double trick, but it is not as necessary. It doesn't get in as much time as it could. Land in a tail dive, trick off, a trick as close as you can to the right wall, so you can land on it as soon as you can, initiate a drift boost earlier, and then wheelie for a bit. Then right as your right as your trick boost ends, you want to start a drift, soft drift up the wall, release your MT trick, and here we come to the shroomless. Now, once again, there is multiple options for this, but contrary to Midnight, it's a lot less nuanced about what you want to do with it. The first method, which is the easy method, the empty wheelie, you simply have to drift wide, go into an empty wheelie, cancel your wheelie, nosedive, and drift right. It is the easier method, but compared to the second method, which we're about to see, you do have to start and end wider. Not to mention that it's quite easy to trap since the angle is a bit narrower. Now, the second method, which is harder, but it is a lot faster. It's an empty spin hop. Essentially, you drift a bit tighter than you have to. If you want to empty wheelie, you want to end up like around here or here. So here you do start a lot tighter than before. Empty, do not wheelie. Wheeling is your biggest mistake here. You want to spin hop with the empty boost still active. So just spin hop, nosedive, then drift right. You will land into a really good alignment compared to the empty wheelie, which ends you around here. So you usually have to like correct a bit. If you do the empty wheelie properly, you should end in a really good position. And so you can just continue going. Shroom a bit after landing, so you have the time afterwards to realign and you still have enough shroom boost to realign and go into wheelie with 97 speed. Trick off, hop as your empty boost is about to end to keep a full 97 wheelie going the entire way. Drift trick off, and you'll be done. And for our final stop, we have, of course, DS Rainbow Road, which some of you might have already seen on this channel if you've been following the Road to 100 Top 100 series, which has essentially morphed into this. I already had a lot of experience on this track, but I do believe that it's probably the easiest one out of all the ones we've covered so far. It's pretty simple, really. It's a pretty basic running track with just one shroom cut. Just wheelie immediately in order to keep going. If you wheelie a bit late, you might want to reset your wheelie in order to keep 97 speed. Here, so you want to do one empty wheelie, short empty wheelie, and then empty wheelie once again after the second boost pad. Do not go for the wide one, it's a trap. And here we come to the only actual hard part of this map, which is actually the moon jump. Now, the easiest way to do this is simply to use the boost of your the boost you get from your MT in order to hop. But there is a little trick to it, which is essentially that you want to delay your hop a bit, and also your turn in order to properly align. Essentially, like you'll want to hop around here and delay your turn just a bit. Like turn as little as possible, so the following wheelie will go into as close of a line as possible to the actual track. And try and buffer your wheelie as much as possible to keep 97 speed going into it. Now, of course, it won't be perfect. You will if you have to realign, try and realign as late as possible, going into side tricks so your one of your wheels can clip into the road easier, so you have to realign less. Then you just wheelie up on the uphill, drift tight, empty. You can drift trick here to get into the shroom cut with a bit less speed, but with a bit less height. It's not that necessary. If you, so you just shroom here, and once again, similar shit to a learning complete and sorry, to a learning complete and cut that in montage. And finally, and as I okay, yeah, just cut that in montage overall. Why is that so big? Yeah, that's so awkward. Oh, there you go. And finally, once you exit, once you exit the shroom cut, you want to do a similar thing as Learning Complete and Midnight Museum, which we already covered, which is just to hop and try and clip your back wheel into the edge in order to get a low trick going into the next corner. Once again, it's not necessary. You just want to drift trick and then hard drift right. And once that's done, just empty wheelie into this section. Do not stop your wheelie. You want to align as left as possible to it, and then just you don't need to spam tricks. I just have ADHD, but you don't need to spam them. You can just delay them for like every trick boost. It doesn't lose time to spam them, but doesn't really gain time either. Just try and get one trick as late as possible around here. Try and get one trick as late as possible in order to keep a trick boost going for as long as you can, and then just drift, empty, and just double empty once here. Try and soft drift a bit at the end in order to get a better alignment going into the next lap, and that's about it. Thank you guys so much for following this episode, this long episode. It's really appreciated, and I'll see you next week for some more top 50s. See ya!
らんかな近づきたいな自分だけの色ってどんな色知れたいほど鮮明惹かれて心に嘘がない嫌いだってそんな言葉じゃ縛れない目まぐしかる一瞬楽しんで鮮やかな血まとっている君が笑った朝を見たんだ気まぐれでカラフルな姿いつまでだって愛しくて知れたいほど鮮